Hello and welcome to the Valley. Today I am your host, Janet Michael. Today we are talking food, festivals, and 250 years of history because it is almost time for Hungry for History here in the Northern Shenandoah Valley. I've got three great guests joining me. Renee Bayliss from the Winchester-Frederick County Convention and Visitors Bureau, Rick Kriebel from Newtown History Center, and Christa Nahhas from Grange Family Farm. Let's get into it. Let me start with you, Renee. So this event, this Hungry for History event, was your brainchild. It's now in its fourth year. Did you ever imagine, as you were in the throes of planning it the first year, that you'd be sitting here now on the eve of year four?
Well, I don't want to take the credit because it was technically Rick's idea, and I think he got it when he went to a conference. I just helped facilitate getting all of the organizations together, bringing everyone together to get the plans formalized, and then creating the marketing materials. So I just helped with the organizing of the groups and putting out the marketing.
That's no small feat in and of itself because it's not like this is just two or three groups. This spans August 28th through September 7th, and you've got a lot of different organizations and different people and businesses that are all involved in some piece of this over that span of time.
Right. We have about 15 different locations, and we also have a few restaurants and a brewery that are participating. And this year, some of the sites are going to have America 250 themes, colonial themes. We're going to have a special colonial beer that's going to be at Chili Hollow Brewing. Clem's Kitchen is going to have a special menu and sounds incredibly delicious. Really traditional recipes that we're used to here in the Valley, and they're using locally sourced ingredients. It just sounds delicious, like Virginia ham and apple butter and biscuits and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
everything that they ever do is delicious.
Yeah, they're new this year, so we're excited to have somebody new participating.
Oh, yeah. And that's a great spot too, because the original kitchen is still, you can still see it there at Wayside.
Yeah, talk about a long history as at the Wayside. Nowhere else in the valley has been operating so long.
So all of the events that are under this Hungry for History umbrella, some of them are geared mostly toward kids. Some have admission fees. Some are multiple days. I know Krista and Rick are going to give us a few more details about some of the things that they're participating in, but there's a wide range of things that people can do. Shenandoah Sips. So Belle Grove is participating with their big event. They tie in to this event that way. Is there a central location where somebody can go and see all of the things and then kind of map out what they want to go and check out?
You can either go to our website, visit winchesterva.com, and we have the event listings there with a program that you could print out, or you can go to the Visitors Center on Pleasant Valley Road, and we have printed programs there that you can pick up that have all the details of all the events going on the whole time.
And then you guys are doing some of your own events there at the Visitor Center that are geared more towards the 250.
Yeah, so ours is going to have a colonial theme this year. We're hosting the Shenandoah Valley Historical Dancers. They're going to be doing colonial dance demonstrations and kind of explaining the clothing and getting people involved. They want them to get up and also participate. This is an interactive thing, so you're not just going to sit there and watch. They want people to get up and dance with them. And we're going to have some food there, queen cakes and colonial shrubs, which is a drink.
Thank you for clarifying that. I'm like, you're going to eat shrubs? What?
It's a shrub. It's like a drinking vinegar, kind of a fruit vinegar. That was something that I know, Janet, it sounds a little odd, right? But people are drinking vinegar now, like apple cider vinegar, but this is like a fruit vinegar. And they actually sound pretty tasty. And you combine it, if you do non-alcoholic, which is what we're going to do, you combine it with sparkling water, that kind of thing. So like a fruity drink.
I feel like Rick wants to jump in here and convince me that it's not as nasty as it sounds.
I was going to ask if it was going to be alcoholic, or really the way I was trying to phrase it was as strong as they used to make it.
No, going non-alcoholic.
Very good reasons why, but colonial alcohol tolerance was beyond anything in the modern day. It's one of the quirks, I guess, of American history, and funny, but not always. So if you look at accounts of medieval Europe, they knew where the clean drinking water was. They come here, and I mean, the locals knew what the clean drinking water was. the first groups here, the Indians, the indigenous Native Americans. But bottom line is, how likely are you to tell the folks who are moving you out of your land where the clean water is?
Yeah.
So to avoid drinking dirty water that could get you dysentery, which is basically weapons grade diarrhea and can be lethal, you would often mix alcohol into your drinks. So especially on the frontier, we had
When did they figure
incredibly
out
high
So
to
now
start
when
levels.
they say
boiling it?
medicinal
Like,
purposes, that's what they meant.
when did they
There's,
start figuring out you could just boil it, right? Did that
well,
prevent most of the
that's actually something that's
bacteria?
very pertinent with the revolution and the tea tax is boiled drinks. You've got three different kinds of beverages you typically have boiled: coffee, tea, and chocolate. All of those are from tropical regions, so they'll have to get imported. Now, if you look at the founding fathers say closely, they're not against taxing our goods. They wanted consultation on it, which the British kept refusing to let them have. But think about the implications there. You want to drink something safe and you don't want something alcoholic. Tea was a pretty good choice. Maybe it's not as affordable as it used to be. On the frontier, you're going to be seeing a lot of whiskey because it comes from corn. You can grow your own corn. Apple cider was probably the ubiquitous colonial beverage, and it would have been hard cider, which is actually made from crab apples, not the kind you eat from. So Johnny Appleseed, probably crab apples. He's post-revolution, but that's some of the dynamic going on. I think our second year, Clarke County had a symposium on alcohol at that time period.
Yes, I remember Nathan did that a couple of years ago.
Yes, and I mentioned the receipt we have for the Founding Fathers' one birthday party, I believe, during the Constitutional Convention about a decade after the Revolution, a little less. And these guys are downing more than one bottle of wine per person, or I should say ordered, in addition to the rum and the punch. The punch then not quite being like your school gathering, the sherbet and all that, but it was basically a giant bowl of mixed drink. And on the one hand, yeah, I'm sure for a party they were all looking to feel a little buzz, but part of it's just the tolerance they had because of just drinking so much more of it in their lives and starting at a much younger age than we do is beyond what any modern American can do. And if I'm wrong about that and there's someone out there with a comparable tolerance, they need help.
That explains the short lifespan in those
Right?
days.
Yeah,
It
that's
does.
true.
If you made it to the age of 5, you're probably going to make it a good deal later because a lot of
Yeah,
childhood
once you
disease
cross
killed
that,
you. But you start the kids with a little bit of apple cider watered down around the age of 6. I'm sure the cirrhosis didn't do any favors, but that's part of the people used to live longer. A lot of it was just we used to die much younger.
So, Rick, what are you doing at your place? Is it across multiple days? What kind of events do you want to make sure we talk about?
It is multiple events and it is spread over multiple days. Our kickoff will be with Grange Farm on Friday, the 28th. We're going to be holding a Tavern Night and we're looking to expand it. Christa and I were actually just emailing about that. We're looking to make the tavern a little more 250th themed. So last year I came dressed in my standard 1812-ish wagon driver outfit, but I also have one that I personally own that'll be for a colonial. Pretty generic. I was thinking German, civilian, middle class, but actually it's pretty similar to what the English would have worn too. So give a little more of the social dynamics and try to talk about how people in the valley felt about the revolution coming up. But then the following weekend, I'm going to do a history of Valerie Hill Winery at Valerie Hill. It's food focused because, it's hungry for history. But really, that property, even before it was a winery, had a long history of being associated with restaurants, hospitality, and the like. And I get into that story in between and a week of. I have a school program I've put together. I designed it for homeschoolers. That's primarily because they're the audience that expressed the most interest, but any school groups who are able to access the building would be able to do it. Unfortunately, the building itself is not handicap accessible, but it's called Homeschool Hunters. And we have an early 20th century store. It was a general store that sold a whole wide variety of merchandise, but because of the era it was in, you can see from what they're selling how we're transitioning this area from an agricultural economy where people are mostly growing their own food and canning their own food to something more industrial like we have today where the vast majority of what you eat comes from a grocery store. So I broke that into a number of different categories, put them into a series of 1-minute talks that are at a fourth grade level, designed for fourth to sixth, because that's when you study local history in the curriculum. But I've had as young as pre-K and as old as high school. They then spread out and they look for artifacts that are in the store that relate to that topic, and if they find something they think fits, we go over, we talk about it. It looks like the kids are starting to get a little antsy. We move on to the next subject.
That store is so cool.
You did that last year. I remember you talking about that last year, and I remember thinking how fascinating that has to be for those kids
Or adults.
or adults.
Yeah,
Well,
it is. Because you point things out to them. Do you know what this is? Do you know what that is? Even objects that they've never seen before. But isn't there like a tin of potato chips? Not the way you would see them usually.
if you ever get popcorn from a fundraiser with Boy Scouts from a holiday, like one of those big tin sizes, they have several of those that have just been potato chips. And no special occasion, just, I guess, a very hungry family.
There's some cool stuff in there.
And I think that's why it can have such a broad appeal, because there's a huge number of social and environmental and health implications with this transition. Today, we're very familiar with it. Consider there's a lot of hot button issues with food and agriculture, with GMOs and organic and all the rest. What this shows is why we got there. People didn't just do this because corporations were looking to make money. There were demands that people were making as everyday members of society, where at that time it was a massive change for the better. And I know that might get some folks antsy, like homesteaders, because they're trying to move back to that, but I don't know if any of us really want to move back to a fully pre-industrial society. And the constant shortages
You don't want to
and
churn your own butter every day.
going to that, before internal combustion engines, all the energy on the farm was from muscle output. If it's not your muscle, it's the animal's muscle. So on the one hand, yes, you're going to get plenty of exercise. You go to any fitness junkie and they'll tell you if you want to build muscle, you need a calorie surplus. We got to a point where you could routinely expect a calorie surplus even without things going wrong on the farm when industrialization hit. When we start making artificial fertilizers and we start putting internal combustion engines in the farm vehicles that require bigger and bigger acreage, and where you start having factories that can process the food. I'm not trying to make any value judgment about where we are today, but I know it's a topic that concerns people. And I do remember one homeschool mother in particular, it really clicked to her. She was very opposed to all that stuff. I don't know if she's necessarily supportive of it now, but she came to realize why we were doing what we did. It's not to say that it's not necessarily true that companies don't do a lot of psychological manipulation with a lot of the different food items we have, but there's a lot more to the story, and a lot of it just comes from what were the needs of the people who were really pushing this as consumers and producers at the time. So, like I said, I can go from pre-K level of just, this is a thing for potato chips. That box of vegetables came from California. California is on the other side of the country, and it takes this many days by train, to talking at this almost collegiate level of what's going on. And really, it's just going to be a matter of, here's a particular category. Go ahead and look for something you think fits it, and we'll talk as long as the group wants to talk.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about that program too, is that you're not pigeonholed into any kind of script, or you can see who your audience is and then tailor that conversation and that education to the people in the room and what they want to know or what they need to know. So I love that you're continuing to include that as part of this program every year. Krista, are you doing, aside from Tavern Night, are you doing anything above and beyond that on a different day? What do you got going on?
We have 3 events. We're helping with Tavern Night with Brick, and we're actually just now in talks about combining with the Stevens City Farmers Market during that night. So we're going to bring a night market to Tavern Night. I think it's going to bring a lot more people. It's going to be a
Cool.
much bigger draw. We also we signed up Star in the Valley to pour cider, and they have a pretty big following.
Yeah.
Plus, our band has a pretty decent following too. The Hancock Civil War Band, they're from West Virginia, and they're old timers, but people love them. They come in full garb. So the night will be really an experience, thanks to Rick and his stories and games and the band. We're encouraging everyone to come in dress, and it's free. There's no ticket price at the door. All the vendors are charging their own fees, and the Newtown Heritage Museum is taking donations at the door, but to just come on the property is free and
Awesome.
enjoy the experience and hear the band. The cider isn't free.
You have to pay for whatever you get while you're there, but you don't have to
Yes,
pay
for
to get
sure.
inside to access any of it.
Yeah, but we're
Which
focusing on experiences this year.
is how Tavern would have operated.
Yeah, that's what I learned from you.
I'm going to apply a modern term to an older concept, because in some ways human nature doesn't change even if our terminology does. But there was a sort of consumer protection thing that the Virginia government passed in colonial times, where if you had a license to operate a tavern, you had to offer the same minimum price as everyone else in the colony. The idea was, say you're one of the more remote areas. You're somewhere between Bristol and Roanoke. It's the night, the weather's awful, it's kind of cold and icy. You hear something weird howling in the distance. You finally make it to a tavern. Well, they've got you. So by basic supply and demand, they can charge you whatever they want, right? You could get a cold cup of cider for euros and pounds back then, but you could charge something ridiculous like a whole pound, which is a whole lot more than $1 today. Well, what they said was for basic accommodations of eating and sleeping, same price across the board. And if you don't offer that, you don't have a license. That said, you can have much fancier places. And one really great example, if I can promote something outside the valley for a second, is Gatsby's Tavern in Alexandria. That place, yeah, if I'm just a plain old wagon driver who's walked from what is now Millwood Avenue in Winchester down to Duke Street, Alexandria, because it is an old trade line and it is a straight shot. If you just go on Millwood heading out of town and you never turn to the right or left, you will end up in Alexandria on Duke Street where the warehouses were. Go a little bit further, turn up a couple blocks, you'd be at Gatsby's Tavern. So that wagon driver could just show up and you get the basic accommodations. The key there is it's basic. And Gatsby's could offer a lot more than basic. What a lot of taverns would have would be a bar. It would be shaped more like a ticket booth than the kind of long countertop we have today.
Oh,
And of course, in the bar, you've got all manner of drinks, including a top shelf. That term comes there for a reason, and it means exactly what you think. So I'm sure Gatsby's top shelf was really something else. The building I'm sitting in right now actually was built as a tavern in 1819 and was known as the nicest one in Stevens City. So probably not at Gatsby's level as far as the good drinks, but still gonna have some nice stuff if you want to pay for it. I'm actually sitting in a room that would be another nicer accommodation here. So at a built commercial tavern where somebody isn't just putting up a spare room in their house, you'd probably have a common sleeping room, which would have a lot of beds or pallets, pallets being kind of this sleeping bag type thing. It's basically a sack filled with straw or other padding. You pick a spot, you go to sleep.
is that for the people that passed out on too much cider?
It's for everyone who doesn't pay for a private bedroom.
Oh.
Now, I'm going to call with three ladies here. Typically, if you're traveling in a group, you're most likely going to be staying in a tavern with a private bedroom. But let's just say for hypotheticals that all three of you are in a group, there's one bed. Bedding prior to Lowell, Massachusetts having its big textile factory outputs in the 19th century was absurdly expensive. You got bedding as a wedding present. So think from a commercial standpoint, a hotel where you can expect a couple queen size beds and maybe a rollout. No, if you pick the private bedroom so you can stay away from all the dirty, nasty wagon drivers throwing themselves down in a common sleeping room, the three of you are sharing a bed. That's how it works. When Abraham Lincoln was a new lawyer starting his way off and he had a law partner, they were sharing a bed. They went to a private bedroom because they're white collar professionals, have to have a certain degree of nicety to it, but it had a bed. I'm in what's now our library, but was once built as a private bedroom for the tavern, which is one of the reasons why this tavern is considered nicer. Another one might be on a lower end. That meal for the day, it's whatever they're making. Hope you like it. If you don't, tough. If you're at a nicer place and you request it and you're willing to pay out, they might make something different for you. And of course, you get to the level of Gatsby's Tavern, they had a private dining room. So when George Washington and some of the other founding fathers or maybe a society of elite gentlemen want to have a little private meeting, they can move away from the common dining room. So that's going to show you one of the nicest kinds of taverns there would be. If you come visit our museum, I can show you one that is pretty nice for a town in the valley. And if you come to Tavern Night, I don't know how many food vendors there'll be, but along the same lines that you could just come for free and hang out. A lot of taverns did that, and actually it's pretty important for our nation's 250th anniversary on a common level. Taverns were, there's no equivalent to them in modern day. So the closest I can think of would be like the food court at a mall. You go there and just work. A lot of business deals are done in taverns. It is a big social hangout, but you could also have elections in a tavern because it is a social gathering space. You could have dances, balls, all the rest of that, but that also means there can be political debates. If people want to hear what's going on, they're going to go to the tavern and they're going to hear the news from travelers, which also means that things that are happening on the East Coast that fill in a lot of the Declaration of Independence and what they call the grievances, all the lists of reasons that we're leaving the British Empire, some of them were going on here. And actually, this would be a great transition area because you have this as a gateway to the frontier. You'd have pioneers saying, oh, hey, the king is telling us we can't go as far west as we want. But then if you have people coming in from the East Coast, they could tell you what's going on in the cities there. Like Boston really is a standout, the worst about it. But how you're having troops being put into these cities patrolling about, eventually have fighting and skirmishes going on. And so then when time comes for the Declaration of Independence and the word spreads, obviously news traveled slower than it does now, but by August 28th, 1776, people around here would have known, hey, we're now declared ourselves an independent country. You think that's not going to be a topic of conversation over drinks?
Yeah. I wonder if we could get someone to dress in costume and stand on a soapbox and talk about political aspects from 250 years ago. I'm going to put my feelers out.
We're having the election of George Washington coming up here in a couple weeks.
That's cool.
They reenact that, yeah, at the courthouse.
That's neat.
It's cute.
I wonder if any of those players would like to come for the night.
That would be cool. And then give a history on how it became known as the soapbox. I assume because it was a soapbox that they would stand on to be taller than
What I've
everybody
heard of.
else.
I know, that's what I've heard of in England. I'm sure that's true. That would be fun. The other two events I'm having, we're supporting the market hall at Belgrove during Shenandoah Sips. So it's a chef's market, bringing chefs and farms together like in the old days in a European market hall style. And we're going to have eating in the center where people can come in and eat and they can talk with the chefs and watch demonstrations. We normally do chef demos, but I had to shift it this year. So they let me play. And so we're also going to include local farms, and they're going to have just like a farmer's market, but inside in a market hall. And then we're having an open farm here one day where people can come in the old house and hear about the history and come out and pet some animals. So those are our
That's
three.
my favorite part.
Mine too.
Krista, this is what, your second year, or have you been involved in this from the beginning?
This is my third year.
Third year.
I was really excited to come on. I did help at Belgrove for the first year, but this is the third year we've done it here on the farm.
You host a whole bunch of different events there on your farm. So this probably fits pretty in line with what you would do on a normal basis. Have you changed it up over the years?
We have. This is only our second tavern night. We usually host an open farm. We try to do that as much as possible because that's always the most popular. And we've definitely changed up the chef demos at Shenandoah Sips. As I was mentioning, we are making it more of a food hall this year. So I'm excited to see how it's going to be. That's very exciting for me. I love the experiences, all the events that are an experience. Those are the most fun for me to do.
So when you do the tavern night with Rick, how does that look? Is it inside the house? Is it under a tent? What does it look like when people roll up there?
We actually are going to do it in the barn. It's a pretty big space, and we set up a little bar for our alcohol vendor, our beverage vendor. This year, we're going to have a bunch of vendors set up on the lawn right outside the barn. We'll have our twinkle lights up and our music going, and we actually also have a local baker that's very historical and does her own milling. And she's going to be providing the snacks for that day. And then there'll be a couple other vendors that have snacks. And we may even wear costumes. I don't know. I think it's demanding costumes this year. Not just Rick.
I think that is an awesome idea. And people don't realize, I fear that when people drive by LaGrange, that they see the field to the side of the house and they see some of the goats and some of the animals there. And then they see the house. And I don't think they really understand just how much land you have behind it. I mean, I have been there dozens of times long before it was yours. You and I have had this conversation. And I still was shocked when we were there for the Lost Arts Festival. I'm like, oh my gosh, how much more land does she have back here? There's a lot of space for you to be able to do something cool like this tavern night.
Yeah, it's great. The barn is a great space. And in August, it's really nice at night, not during the day. Yeah, it's perfect. The barn is the original barn, one of the original barns. It was dated at mid 1800s by a specialist. It's not as old as the house, but the foundation of the barn is likely close to the same age as the house. So it makes it extra special when people get to come and share it.
So, Rick, you dress up and are in full on, this is my night to shine at this tavern night. Is that right?
I usually dress as a wagon driver and talk about what it would be like to go on the road, especially because Millwood kind of lies on a trade line. One of the biggest exports here from the colonial times on through to the beginning of the 20th century was wheat, which would have been ground at Burwell Morgan Mill. And then Alexandria is basically the closest port. I mean, today it's a nice place to take your mom for Mother's Day, but it used to be a port city. So it would be very common for wagon drivers to be going from Winchester, which is considered a market town, a major hub on the road, to the port. Or conversely, if they want to go from Newtown, Stephen City, I mean, if you immediately head east of town, it's called Fairfax Pike, because that path from Winchester to Alexandria goes through the town of Fairfax. So basically just going through there, going through White Post past Dinosaur Land, and where modern highway designations 340 meets 50, you'd make a right turn, and that's the only turn you would make to go from Stephen City to Alexandria. So talk about what would that be like as a wagon driver? What's the wagon like? What's the day on the road like? What's it like when I come to stop at a tavern at night? I've noticed people are more interested in the tavern than they are in the life on the road. I guess because most of what I have to say about the road is pretty unpleasant. I mean,
Right?
We've
bumpy and
all played
just,
the Oregon Trail and stuff. We don't want to be on a wagon. We have
Yeah.
to, right?
it's not as bad as the Oregon Trail,
I
but
don't
it's still
know.
not
That
fun. I
sounds like
mean,
a wagon
basically,
does not sound
the trucker.
historical TV shows to know enough that I don't want to be on a wagon very long.
You
We
wouldn't
know
have to
that
be riding in those
tavern will help
cargo
with the
wagons.
dysentery.
The probability of getting dysentery in a more settled area is much lower, and Renee, you would not be riding inside one of those cargo wagons unless you're being smuggled around. But you just get to walk outside the wagon for about 10 hours on a dirt road. So, I mean, if
Yeah,
you're
which is better, walking, riding a horse.
So much of this whole event is, like I said earlier, is geared towards kids. I mean, we adults love it as much as the kids do. You really do want to engage the children in learning the history, understanding how it has shaped where we are now, and just giving them those light bulb moments when they connect the dots.
We have another event that's at the library that's Colonial Kids Kitchen. So kids are going to learn how to make French toast, which was called lost bread. I guess that's the way they used up stale bread back in colonial times. But that's another cool kids activity that's going to be included.
I'm sure that happens to you a lot, Rick, when you're doing your homeschool hunters, because they have no idea until you explain to them how it got from this to that.
I definitely see a lot of kids starting to realize that some random thing they're seeing on the shelf actually has a purpose. Again, it's depending on the age level, what they're going to be seeing and where they're going to be processing. But there can also be sort of a reverse of that. We mentioned the tub of potato chips to realize somebody had to make those. And you can make potato chips at home, but that's one of those things that's a whole lot easier in a factory, right? There's some things like pies where the difficulty isn't really that big a difference, but to slice potatoes thin enough to be chips and then to boil them in the oil at that level.
Without the slicers that we have today and all of the other things, you're literally using a knife, or maybe not even a knife like we're thinking of.
That actually gets into some other questions about technology. And I gotta admit, I don't know when vegetable slices were invented. I can say knives go back to prehistory. It's relatively easy to make something with a handle on one side and a sharp cutting implement on another. But to your point, even if we start to have homemade potato chips, that's still gonna be easier because of industrialization and factory processes. That you can get an adjustable vegetable slicer, you can just slide it across the board. As long as you don't put your hand there, it's nice and easy. As opposed, yeah, if you did try to do it with a knife, you're having to cut these things thin enough. I don't know when potato chips were invented. That's something that then I should probably try to look up because there's certain foods that we don't get without factories. And
That's
the
a
one
good
I usually
point.
go to is the modern marshmallow has nothing to do with the original marshmallow, but you can make something like that at home, but that just doesn't happen without a lot of chemicals and processes.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that people tend to forget. Like, potato chips are supposed to just be potatoes.
Not to mention, like the fact that metals have changed. They weren't using tempered steel in those times. Obviously, they're cutting with rusty iron and probably sometimes giving themselves botulism and all other things. So,
According to Google, potato chips were invented in the summer of 1853 by
oh,
George Crumb, a chef at Moon's Lake House in Saratoga Springs, New York. He
Rum,
accidentally created them when
appropriate.
an unhappy customer repeatedly sent back their French fries, complaining they were too thick and soggy. So, in frustration, he sliced the potatoes paper thin, fried them until they were crispy, and added heavy salt. May or may not be true.
I'll look into it.
You
And
look
that's
into it, and I'll have you back on a whole separate show, and we will do an entire
The
radio
history
conversation
of
about the
potato
history of
chips.
potato chips.
okay. I got
That's
homework
a
now.
great idea. You could do it at Route 11 potato chips. That's a
Yes, I
show
think it
for
would
you.
be fantastic. Sarah's done the show. She would love that.
That's really cool.
That gets into another thing with what I do with the Homeschool Hunters program is, especially these days with the internet, memorization still is important to some degree, especially if you're looking for like parameters you're going to search with. But a big part of doing history now is knowing how to find good sources. And I mean, it's kind of funny when I'm in college, they're telling me go on JSTOR, go on EBSCOhost, all this stuff's peer reviewed. And I really believe in the value of peer review. Then I come to a museum, and I mean, we can't afford subscriptions to any of those. There's bigger institutions that can, we can't. So, how do I then find my information? And some of it is looking at the material. In grad school, I learned how to look at individual materials, and I learned about the history of materials. So, steel is actually a lot older than we think, but it's not readily accessible really until industrialization kicks in. Not totally unaffordable, and we all own things that are kind of rare, kind of expensive, but kind of important, like computers or cars that we value. So if you want to have a good steel knife, you can have a good steel knife. But yeah, cast iron is way more common, and the bottles and comic crystal. The kinds of cans we used to have, the kinds of cans I have in the store,
Bet.
I wouldn't want to eat anything from them, even in my own lifetime. I'm 36, but the kind of cans you saw from the 1990s versus the kind of cans you see now, we've continued to refine the process to make it safer, more durable, etc., etc. Because botulism is a scary thing, and none of us wants that.
That's even worse
So
than dysentery.
Really, that's true.
So, Rick, if somebody's listening today and they want to come and participate in any of the things that you're doing throughout the Hungry for History event, or they want to come on a random day in October, do you have regular hours for the History Center? Are you open? Are you closed? Give me some of the contact details.
we are located at 5408 Main Street in Stevens City. Basically, we are at the one traffic light on Main Street in town. We are across the street from the Flower Center, catty corner from Black Shutter Antiques. Our hours are seasonal and they do vary a little bit by season. So right now, from June through August, it is Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4, Sunday, 1 to 5. September, we close on Tuesdays. So then September, October, and most of November, we are open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 4, Sunday, 1 to 5. Our last day of the season is the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So that's late November. After that, we are closed for the season until June comes around again. If that's too much, you can always just make an appointment with us. You can do that by emailing us info@newtownhistorycenter.org, visiting our website, newtownhistorycenter.org, or calling us at 540-869-1700. If you call and say, hey, I want to come visit this time, if the staff are available, we will make it, even if it's outside normal business hours.
How about you, Krista? How does it work at your place if somebody wants to come pet the animals? You have a market. Give me the details for LaGrange Family Farm.
The market is open all day long. It's an honor system, so you can come get fresh veggies or eggs, or we have a couple different local artisans that put stuff in there. There's honey, coffee, pottery, a couple different things. Fresh bread, flowers, although they don't stay fresh this time of year very much. Everything else is open by appointment unless we're having big events. So the best thing is to follow us on social media. We have a monthly parlor guild, which is a group of people that come meet in our parlor. And someone who wants to teach us something will teach us something while we have tea and tasties. And all those things are announced online. We host several events. We have one almost every weekend if we're not closed for private events. And we also have opened up a little shop in the front of the house. So you can come in and hear the history of the house and have a little antique shopping. And those are all posted on social media usually.
And then Renee, all of the details for all of this that's happening for Hungry for History, all of that is on your website. And then so are the things, anything that Rick may be doing at Newtown History Center, anything that Krista is doing. You are the one that Justin sings the praises for every single month about how they're all on that calendar because of you.
Yes, yes. I do have a little bit of help now. We have another employee we added recently, so I do get a little help keeping things up to date on our calendar. But yeah, you can visit our website, visit winchesterva.com, and we have an event calendar there that has all the details about what's going on. everywhere in Winchester-Frederick County, but it specifically details about Hungry for History if you want to participate in that. And it's August 28th through September 7th. So it's kind of over that Labor Day weekend. This event takes place not only in Winchester and Frederick County, but also Clarke County. We have things at places like the Museum of the Shenandoah Valley. We have Cedar Creek and Belgrove National Historical Park participating, Stonewall Jackson's Headquarters Museum, Abrams Delight Museum. We also have the Handley Regional Library and the Patsy Cline Historic House is participating during their special Patsy Cline block party. There's also an event that they're doing in Clarke County that is a partnership between Claremont Farm and Josephine School Museum, and that's going to be a taste of two communities focusing on Geneva Jackson and the people she fed. So that's just a sampling of some of the things that we're doing. There's so many sites. So check our program and see what interests you, and we hope to see you come out.
Now I know why you have to have it be so many days.
That was only like, there was other stuff too. That was like, there's more people, but I can't list everything.
That was actually part of the origin of how we got started. Was part of the impetus for it was Civil War weekend used to be a good way to have a bunch of joint programs and sort of advertising. That kind of peered away, although I understand it's recently started up again at a different date. So I thought, well, what if we have a bunch of food programs? It would be a little easier for the site where I work to make things that are relevant to it, and we can include some other sites. And the Civil War sites can still be involved because everyone in the Civil War ate. And if they didn't, they weren't fighting for very long. So we did that, and we just sort of brainstormed initially the first year what everyone wants to do, invite a whole bunch of different places. Most of them said yes. Civil War weekend was meant to be like coordinated, so you could go to this program here and then that program there. And we just have so much, we literally had to spread it over 2 weekends. Bell Grove Plantation had what they then called the Wine Fast, now Shenandoah Sips, was right around that same time. Says, we don't really know if we can do anything extra. We started to have that kind of become the kickoff because it's one of the biggest sites in the area and they already do something grand. So it doesn't become much more for them and it becomes something really beneficial to the rest of us. And then Patsy Cline House always has a block party on Labor Day weekend. So that kind of became the other anchor on the other side and just find a way to incorporate the food history.
Such a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with her background at the soda fountain and all that sort of stuff, that was probably an easy connection for Patsy Cline.
What they actually did their first year, they have done the soda fountain, but the first year they offered a cake that was
they're going to do that again this year.
Yes, it was a family recipe and it was a walnut cake, and the walnuts they use are harvested from the walnut tree in her backyard.
Get out.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's
Patsy
super
Cline
cool.
walnuts.
I'm really excited for what we're doing and for what we're doing with LaGrange, but all the sites have great possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason why you can't fit at least one or two of the events. When you have an event that spans that many days, there's no excuse to not participate in something.
You're not going to miss it.
And then the visitor center, I think sometimes people forget the visitor center is a great place for even those of us that live here to go and either pick something up or learn something new or grab one of the guides, any of that sort of stuff. You guys are open 7 days a week there, right?
We're open 7 days a week, 9 to 5. If you have family visiting and you need something for them to do, it's always a good place to come and get ideas about what's going on. We always have current events and things like that, what's happening in our farms and our museums, and we can give you all kinds of good ideas on what to do.
How to get them out of your house. That's the important thing.
Sometimes you blink and you think, what can we do with these people? They're here. We're supposed to be showing them our town. And you just don't know because you're here all the time. You're just working and you're busy, and coming to the visitor center will give you some ideas.
Rick, thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was fun.
Thanks, Christa. It's always good to see your face.
You also. I love chatting.
And Renee, I guess I'll talk to you between now and then, but I won't talk to you on the show until next year at Hungry for History.
Yeah.
It's your token
Unless
show. I got to
Justin
take
really needs me to fill in. I will see you next year probably. Thanks for having us.
That'll do it for us today. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, just a few minutes after noon, so meet me here then.